This is the exact resume that got me multiple senior software engineering job offers. Yes, even in this ridiculously tough tech market. For all of you wondering, I do have a new job now. I'm gonna tell you all about it super soon. In the interview process, your resume gets you a seat at the table, a chance to even be considered. Then it's your algorithms, data structures, and system design knowledge that actually gets you the job. Well, this resume got me over 50 interviews in the past 6 months, and I've spent countless hours refining every bullet point, piece of Whitespace, and title, with the help of my friends, ChatGPT, and even past coworkers. Today, I'm gonna distill everything I've learned so you can copy my process exactly. And for the first time, I'm going to be the sponsor of today's video. So if you're interested in supporting my content journey, or you're just interested in my exact resume template, you can download the source code in the description below. I have my resume right in front of me. Let's break it down. First things first is packaging. Think about when you go on a first date. It doesn't matter how cool you are on the inside. If you're not wearing nice clothes, your hair looks good, and when you get closer, hopefully you smell nice, then the girl isn't gonna give you a chance. And this advice goes for anything in life. Even when you go on Netflix to pick a show, they keep changing their thumbnails on you to entice you to click, because if you don't click, you'll never watch the show, and then all that work doesn't matter. And trust me, this is the same thing for YouTube, where thumbnails and titles matter so much. So let me know what you think about this thumbnail and title in the comments below. So when a hiring manager or recruiter opens up your resume, you want them to feel like, I want to read this document. It's a breath of fresh air. But also that this person is competent, which means you need to have just enough content, but not too much, where you bog them down and they feel like they're reading a research paper. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Well, when it comes to resumes, there's nothing more important to packaging than Whitespace. Think of when you visit a museum. They could have technically padded every single square foot with art or an exhibit, but they didn't. They left a lot of open room, so you could enjoy the art on the walls. In a way, the openness, the empty space, enhances your experience in the other space. And I'm no architect or designer, but I think if you've been to a museum, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Well, your resume is very similar. You have access to white space that should enhance the experience of reading the rest of the content on the document. So you want to have white space between sections, between headings, and anywhere else you feel like you can draw the reader's eyes to things that actually matter. But again, not too much white space, because then it'll look like you don't have enough experience. But lucky for you, Whitespace isn't the only thing you have access to in your toolkit. You can also bold, underline, italicize, maybe even strike through, but probably don't do that, and colors. But just like anything else, you don't want to overdo it. You want to do just enough so you're accentuating what's already there, because remember, the focus is still the content, what makes you a fire software engineer and future employee. If you look at my resume, I only use 2 colors, black and blue. And yes, sometimes I bold, so it makes it feel like a deeper, richer black. But when it comes to blue, I only use it for links that are clickable, because I want it to be intuitive. When you see hyperlinks, you think blue. If you see blue on my resume and you go to click on it, you expect something to happen. And I want that to be seamless. Any designer will tell you, following design principles that are intuitive, accessible, and well-known will be your best friend. In the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about more elements that will play a part into packaging. Because just like a package, your resume is the sum of all of its different sections. So next up, we have formatting. When it comes to the overarching format of your resume, you have 2 main options: the 1-column resume and the 2-column. I've done both, and there really is no way to go wrong. I personally prefer the 2-column because it intuitively splits up my resume into the 2 halves. The left half is things that won't really ever change: my education, the year I graduated, the classes I've taken, and all the programming languages I know now. Sure, I might learn some more in the future, but then it's very easy to edit that. While the second half of my resume is the living and breathing section, the things that are constantly changing. The places I've worked, the years of experience, the projects I'm working on, and all the cool things I want to highlight to future employers. So you've decided if you want a 1-column or 2-column. There are 2 sections that are never going to go away. Just like a website, you have the header and you have the footer. Let's talk about them. The header is the first thing someone's going to see. At least in English societies, we read up to down and left to right. So you want that to be big and bold and centered. So at the very top, you can see I have Naman Kapoor, and then right below, I have a subsection of all the ways to contact me. Now, some people go crazy here. They put their address, their mom's name, where they were born in India. Don't do all of that. At most, you can have where you currently reside, but really, especially in this increasingly remote world, you only need 3 things: your website, your email address, and phone number. Now, some people like to put their GitHub links and LinkedIn. I'll tell you why I don't include those. Well, for one, you can find those on my website. So I want my website to be a consolidation of all the ways to find me on the internet. But if you don't have a personal website, then you might want to put your LinkedIn or GitHub. But usually when you apply to jobs, there's a different section on the application for LinkedIn. So putting it on your resume, I don't think makes the most sense. But again, it's just one more thing. So if you want to include it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. GitHub, on the other hand, it's like, what's the reason? Yeah, it's all the technical stuff you've worked on, but when you're talking about those projects in the bullet points, why not link them there? And instead of linking the entire GitHub homepage, link the specific repositories or the commits or the code changes or issues to make it really easy for the person to see all the impact you've actually made. Imagine if you had eye tracking software to make sure the recruiter was actually giving you a fair chance. You'd want to make sure the eyes went through the whole resume, which means they might go really fast to the middle, but I promise you they're going to spend some time at the top and at the very bottom. Next up, we have the footer. For me, it's the award section. For you, it could be anything else. And right now I have it on the second half of my resume, but really you could have it as the entire footer, take up the entire page. And I might actually play around with that later because that's impressive. I want you to see big numbers, the amount of money I won, the hackathons I won. I want you to know that I'm someone who's going to come to the team and make a difference. So we've talked about overall format. We've talked about the header and the footer. Now, just like a website, we have the body, the meat of the resume, which I've actually delineated in my resume with a line. I guess I don't have a line between the footer, but I think it just looks a little weird if I do that. The meat of your resume should have sections, and the exact number of sections doesn't matter. I'll tell you how many. I have 6. You could have anywhere from 4 to 6, but there's some sections you should always include. Education, coursework, skills, experience, and awards. 5. Pretty easy to remember. Now, each of these sections can also have up to 2 subsections. I think 2 is the magic number because more than 2, then I'm like maybe break it up into its own section or it feels too much to read. So for example, in education, I have my undergrad, my graduate. In coursework, I have very similar. And then in skills, I have languages I speak like English, French, Portuguese, and then technical programming languages. But again, I'd say no more than 2 subsections per main section. Now, before we deep dive into each specific section and tell you how to make it a banger, formatting, overall ordering of these sections actually matters a lot. And if you're going to remember anything, remember chronological, in time order from the present to the past. And the reason for that, again, is because the person is going to scan from the top to the bottom. So you want what you've worked on very recently at the very top, because that's what they're going to care about. So if you have a 1-column resume, make sure your education and coursework is at the very top, followed by your work experience closely at the bottom. And again, because we scan left to right, the person is going to read the education and then go straight to experience. Oh, he went to Rice, he got a master's, and he's been at Bolt for the past 3 years. Nice. Next, let's deep dive into each section, and I have them right in front of me, so we're going to do it together. Let's start with education. You want the name of your university bolded. In this case, I went to Rice. I got an MS in computer science. Put the year you graduated. If it's expected and you're intern, then just put the word expected. No one needs to know when you started university. I hope you didn't take like 10 years to finish your undergrad, but if you did, no one needs to know that. Just tell them when you graduated. When it comes to GPA, you can either omit it or you can add it. I always think you should add it if you had above a 3.75 over 4. You can do the translation in your school system, but what I'm basically saying is if you had a B average or above, include it. 3.75, 3.8, 3.9, they're all close to 4 and they make it sound like you were good. I hope you were good. A lot of people like to write masters in science or bachelors, and it's known. People know what an MS is, a BA, a BS. Just put the acronyms. You'll be fine, I promise. Next up, we have coursework. I've actually split it up into undergrad and grad because I did a master's. Now that I'm actually looking at this, maybe grad should be above undergrad because again, it's in chronological order. So every resume can be improved and even mine can. Now, I'm sure you've done a lot of classes, a lot of credits. Pick the ones with the best buzzwords and the ones that are applicable to the software engineering industry. And if you're gonna make separate resumes to each job you apply, which is a lot of work, so honestly, I wouldn't, then pick the classes that speak to the bullet points in the job description. Make them sound interesting and challenging. For example, operating systems, concurrent programming, distributed program construction, advanced object-oriented programming, fundamentals, introduction, computational. Sometimes I took the name of the class and made it sound better. The one thing I've done here that most people don't do to make myself stand out is I've added asterisks as more information for the classes I've taken. For example, if I was a teaching assistant or I PM'd the class or I did something else that was more than just sitting and listening to the lecture and taking exams, then I should include that because it shows leadership. It shows kind of like industry level experience even though I was in college. Before we continue our deep dive, I want to show you how easy it is to create a website with Hostinger so you can publish your resume for the world to see. Which means if anyone looks you up, they can see what you've been up to. And even better, reach out if they think you'd be a good fit for their company. And in this crazy tech market, that gives you the edge. After inputting a few details like brand name, website type, and description, their AI will generate a first draft website for you to then customize. And once you're ready, there's an interactive checklist to walk you through every step of the way. And to make your life even easier, there's a bunch of AI tools you can use, like Writer, Logo Maker, and Heat Map. And since I want my resume to be the star of the show, I'm going to use the AI Heat Map feature to make sure I have the optimal layout. And then I'll create a brand new logo using the AI logo generator, do a final look over, and publish the website for the world to see. You can get started today, but I'd recommend the business plan using my special link and discount code NUMMIN. They're also running some pretty crazy Black Friday sales, so I take advantage of them before they run out. Now let's get back to the video so you can optimize your resume and get that dream job. And then last but not least, on the left half of my resume, I have skills. I've broken this up into programming and languages. Languages just because I think it's a fun fact that I can speak so many. English, Hindi, French, Portuguese. It's something that might make me stand out from the crowd. More important, of course, is programming languages. Again, you should put them in order of chronology. And so I've learned Go at Bolt. It's my most recent experience, followed by TypeScript, GraphQL, SQL, Python, Java, C. And I know you probably know a bunch of other technologies, Emacs, Vim, SQL. Don't bog the person down. They're not going to spend that much time on there. Just put the languages that are well known, that people understand. And even a recruiter will be like, oh, Go, I know that. Oh, Python, of course, Java. All right. And then arguably the most important section on your entire resume, experience. This is where you show that you are savage when it comes to engineering. You're a rockstar engineer who does projects in like 3 hours. That's where you show it. Now, I have very strong opinions on the headings of sections. I think you want them to look sexy. And so if I were you, I would just copy mine. I think it has all the relevant information, but let me break it down for you. You want the name of the company, obviously. So here I have Bolt. Then you want your title. And even if you were like, didn't really have a title, make one up. If you did mobile application development, then call yourself a mobile developer or an Android engineer. If you did web development, then call yourself a web dev engineer. Like use the words that people understand. Software engineer, full stack developer, senior software engineer. You earned those titles, use them. And then the dates of your employment. If you're still there, you can end it with present. If you aren't there, then end it with the month you left. Now, this is where it gets a little bit hazy because like, what if you got laid off or you just left recently, but it's been like a 6-month gap, then what do? Just put down the truth. I promise you it's gonna be okay. Maybe they asked you, hey, what have you been up to for the last 6 months? And just be honest. I was burned out, I took a break, or even better, I worked on some side projects. You can look it up on my GitHub, or actually built blackjack or a poker bot or whatever fun stuff you did. I played around with LLMs. You can talk about that. Don't hide away from it. The one little nuance here is if you just left your job, like let's say you left in July and you're recruiting in August, you could probably leave it as present and it's okay. I think the leeway is probably 1 to 2 months since you've left. After that, you should probably be honest about why and when you left. Next up, you have the city of the headquarters. And I say headquarters because I know over COVID, a lot of you were remote. I was remote. And yeah, I lived in Houston, Texas, but I'm not gonna put Houston, Texas for each of my experiences. It sounds so much cooler to be like, oh, Seattle, San Francisco, New York City, like the big tech hubs. Like I'm a world traveler. So again, don't lie if you've never stepped foot out of your house or never went an offsite or your manager doesn't sit there and there really is no reason for you to even say San Francisco, then don't say it. The next line in the heading is optional, but it should show impact. In this case, I was the editor of our engineering blog. And so I've listed that there with a hyperlink. I also have another one here for Gusto, which I'll get to, where I put Kleiner Perkins Engineering Fellow. Could that be a bullet point? It could, but it's something which is more elevated than a bullet point. It's something that I really want the reader to see. Even if they don't read the bullet points, I want them to make sure they read that. So for the Gusto one, you can see here I have Kleiner Perkins Engineering Fellow, and I've written 1 of 50 fellows out of 3,000 plus applicants. And then I've written top 2% and I've bolded it. We'll talk about formatting, bolding, underline, italicize in just a bit. But you might think, hey, you already said 1 of 50 fellows out of 3,000. Why did you add the top 2%? Because I want to tell the reader what conclusion to make. I don't want them to think, wait, 50 fellows and there's 3,000? That's not that impressive, right? What's 50 times 6 is 300. I don't want them to do any math. I want them to read that and be like, top 2%. So if anything, when you look at them scanning it, they read Kleiner Perkins Engineering Fellow, which is bolded, and then they read top 2%. And instantly they're like, wait, this guy was better than 98%. And then last but not least, I have this project section, which for me is just for funsies, hopefully a conversation starter. Make it applicable to the job. And you might be thinking, how is YouTube applicable to the job? But hey, I'm talking on camera. I'm gonna have to talk on meetings, maybe lead presentations. I come across as confident. I've proven I can build something from 0 to 1. But if you're a knitter or you love rollerblading, could you put that as an interest? Sure, but it's not gonna help with the job. And then at the very bottom, we've already touched on this, awards. Over here, once again, chronological. You don't have as much space, so just use the most banger words like first place, best consumer feature, and then tell me where you got it, Bolt Hackathon, or I want an engineering scholarship for an MCS degree. Money makes people happy. I want money, you want money. They're trying to hire you so they can make the company more money, right? It's all about money. Put the dollar signs in there, they'll help you. All right, now let's talk about the meat of the resume, the actual bullet points. The first question I always get asked is how many should I have? Roughly, I would say 1 to 2 chunky bullet points for every year you've been at the company. So if you're an intern, that might just be 2 or 3 total, but I've been at Bolt for 3 years now, so I have about 5 or 6, 1 or 2 per year of experience. One of my friends actually wanted me to review his resume and he sent me one of the bullet points and it said, engineered lightweight inference images that specifically targeted frameworks such as TensorFlow and PyTorch. Prior to this, there were no inference-only images and the introduction of these images significantly reduced model deployment times by removing unnecessary bloat and improve reliability by including only relevant dependencies. I had to take a deep breath reading that. Sure, the recruiter isn't gonna be reading this out loud to a committee, but they're gonna be reading it out loud in their head, and their head's gonna take big breaths too when they're trying to read it in their brain. And so I edited this to say, engineered lightweight inference images for TensorFlow and PyTorch that reduced OpenAI model deployment times by 85%. Now, why is that better? And there's 3 reasons why. 1, I use buzzwords. I keep the relevant buzzwords, PyTorch, TensorFlow, and I add one, OpenAI. It's all over the news, OpenAI, you know OpenAI, right? ChatGPT. 2, keep it short and sweet. This is one sentence that you can say with one breath. There's no run-on, there's no period, and actually in the previous one, there were 2 sentences together. You don't want 2 separate sentences, you want just one. And then 3, I added a number. Now this one I told him to edit because I just made it up, 85%, but it sounds way better. Like, I don't even know if you know what I just said, but you will remember OpenAI and 85%. The most important thing is active voice, and to choose verbs that make you feel something. Led, contributed, developed, designed, automated, right? Don't just use did, helped, sat through meetings, right? No. And on the discussion of showing me the impact, not just telling me it, showing me it, numbers, statistics are gonna be your best friend. Show me how much money you saved, how much time you saved analyst. Show me how much money you made, right? Numbers, and then bold them so I'll never miss them. You can see here I have 100 million in revenue, 80% reduction, 6% of all transaction value, 2,300 hours a year. That's a lot of hours. I haven't even read to you what I did, but if I said I saved someone 2,300 hours and that saved X amount of money, you're gonna be impressed. I promise you're gonna be impressed. So by now we've gone through most of what I wanted to cover in this resume, the one that got me so many jobs, and I'm so thankful for that. Let's go back to the conversation starter. I want all of you to think about one thing that makes you cool, and I want you to add it somewhere in the resume. It could be at the very bottom, it could be a bullet point in something that you did, but if you led the intern experience at a company, or if you emceed the talent show, these are cool things that still show you're gonna be a great addition to culture, you're a great person, you're someone who's gonna be fun to talk to, you'll pass the airport test, where if they're stuck with you for 8 or 9 hours at the airport because of a delayed flight, are they gonna hate themselves, or they'll be like, hey, let's grab a drink, I wanna talk to you a little bit more, right? Your hiring manager is a person, your recruiter is a person, they have hobbies, they like to crochet and play with their cats. So don't put that you have a cat on your resume, but think about how you can use some of the things in your daily life to show that you're a cool person. If there's anything you'll take away from this video, the cardinal rule is your resume is an embellished truth of yourself. Never lie, but it's okay if you sound a little bit cooler than you really are. I want you to look your best, I want you to feel confident, and I want you to go crush it. With that, cheers, and I'll see you next time.